What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great evening. Hope everybody's having a good day. I don't know what this is gonna be called, but I know what the title is, and the title is just happening right before our eyes. If we don't strategically align and educate as a community, we're gonna be in trouble, y'all. I'm seeing it in real time. Um, I think that we have to get to a place to where we can succeed as a community. Not talking about politics, partially. I'm talking about locally, individually, person by person, and then after the person, group by group, and then you get to the extracurricular stuff. It's kind of like when you was going to school. Before you can play any or do any activities, you had to make sure you took care of your personal grades. So some of the things that I'm seeing before I get into the topics is, have you noticed it seemed like there are more older people working than younger people, especially like at retail jobs, and if you go out to eat every now and then, I'm seeing a lot more older people at the drive-through serving people than I am younger people. Um, if we go to Walmart, Kroger's, or something, you see more of the older people doing a lot of the in-store jobs, stocking and stuff like that. And if we don't strategically have our youth to educate, our community is going to hurt for a while. And I'm saying it from my own experience because I didn't educate when I graduated high school. And to anybody that's graduating high school, I will advise you right now in 2026, please find something to invest your time in that will increase your skills, increase your value. I can't say it enough. I didn't do it, and I'm telling you from my experience, so you won't have to be like me going to school at 40, in your 40s. It's so important to invest your time in something that will bring you gain in the future. It's a commitment, but in the grand scheme of things, you got to think about your from 20 to 30. That's 10 years. Most colleges, 4 years. If you really slow it down and do maybe two or three classes a semester, it could be 5 years. You want to do a trade that could be 4 or 5 years before you can take the journeyman test. You want to do a vocation that could be a year and a half, 2, 3 to get your hours in. You have to invest your time in something. You have to take personal responsibility for your individual development. I didn't do that. I just went to work out of high school and got comfortable and complacent. And the thing that I really saw is when I got deep in my 20s, how much money it really takes to be on your own and operate independently and still have money left over after all the bills are paid. Even if you live below your means where you don't even take on a lot of stuff, you're just paying basic bills. And if you don't have a career style job or salary, you just kind of being in that minimum wage or a little bit over, you're gonna find out that you can only do so much when you're in that range. And it's not a lot. And when things go up like gas, when things go up like groceries, it eats into what little you have left over after bills. And I'm saying this because if we don't have our kids to strategically educate, you're gonna start to feel that. You're gonna start to see more crazy things happen. And let's get into it. We have to do that though. So why is education and skills important? Whatever you choose, whatever you educate yourself in, you have to make sure that what you educate yourself in is actually giving you a skill along with the education and knowledge that you can use to increase your value, to generate revenue as you grow as an adult. Knowledge is important because high school is just base knowledge, high school diploma, base knowledge. But there are other things that you can be knowledgeable in that you can make money to support you. And eventually, if you want a family, you can support those things and still have money left over to invest and do other endeavors. But if you hover around in that minimum wage range, um, think federal is like 7 to, you know, 12, 13, something like that. Will it work short term? Sure, it's money coming in, but in the long term, you're gonna feel it. It's gonna feel like you can't ever catch up sometimes, or you have to live way below your means, and you won't be able to get the new car. You won't be able to get the newest clothes. You won't be able to get the food that you want to get because you're constantly trying to make sure that your bills are paid and you're trying to keep up with the times, especially if you have a car. Now you got to keep up with the gas prices. Where do I go? What can't I go? I can't do these extra trips. I can't do these certain things. You have to factor the. If you got some common sense, you have to factor these things in. That's just how life works. When you have a skill, not only would it increase your value, but if something happens at the workplace or the job, you can take those skills elsewhere and it can minimize some of the time in between jobs. If something happens, layoffs or whatever they call it, workforce reduction, when you have the knowledge and skills, it can cut down on some of the time. When I got laid off, it was like my first IT job. When I got laid off, I think I was able to bounce back into another job in about 2 months. And this was years ago. I'm not sure how it is now, but years ago. And what I can say is I went from working in the ISP place to going into like the corporate world, like working, started out back over and started in help desk, start and then work my way up into like systems, networking systems, and now I'm in kind of programming a little bit different little. But what I can say is along the way, every job I worked at, I took a skill that added to my overall portfolio as working in IT, information technology or tech, or whatever people call it. But any job I worked at, I always honed in on a different skill that I could take with me. I don't ever look at working at a place and it was a waste of time because then it's like, what's the point of me working there? So any job you work at, make sure that you understand, learn the job, and take some of those skills with you if you have to leave that job. Having the knowledge base to know what to do, when to do it, when to make a shift, when to not make a shift, when to kind of hold what you got. Having an expanded knowledge will help you see things in a different way. Being able to correlate things together, like understanding what market you in, understanding how time shift, how things are going, and having the knowledge and the skill to realize how do I navigate in things that I can't control and where is my advantages and where's my disadvantages. You have to know these things as you grow as an adult if you want to be successful. Because there was a time years ago where you could work one job and stay at that one job. But those days are gone. Very rare that you can be at a job for 30 years and retire. It's very rare because most jobs now, they're not going to give you raises based on cost of living and you being there. Most jobs now, they'll lock you in at a rate and keep you right there. Maybe you may get a cost of living, but it may only be like 2% or something like that. And in the grand scheme of things, that's really not that much. And the only way that you get a raise is if you move up internally based on skill and education, or you go elsewhere to a job that's going to pay you more for what you're currently doing. So you have to think about that. The next thing, how powerful are choices and decisions? I cannot stress this enough. Your choices and decisions, and especially when you're graduating high school, that is your currency. That is what you invest your decisions, like what are you investing your time in, what you choose to invest your time in, will have an impact in the future. It's like in stocks. If you invest in this stock, if the stock rises in the future, you get a gain from it. You make a good choice, you get a gain from it. You make a bad choice, you get a bad gain from it. We're gonna talk about that here in a little bit. When you think about those guys that's in that Julio Fulio case, they made some bad choices. Bad choices will set you back. Bad choices will increase the effort that it takes to get back into level ground again, where you can start making decisions from a neutral place again. They're so powerful that some people make a bad choice and it may set them back for years until they can get back to a level playing ground. It happens. That's why, matter of fact, I go to the next one. You got to stop worrying about somebody judging you and avoid the results. I had to do this. That's people's favorite line right now. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Nobody's trying to judge you. They're trying to prevent you from getting the results that you don't want, that's not favorable to anybody. Nobody's judging you by where you grew up at. Nobody's judging you by your circumstance. What they're trying to do is prevent you from going down that road, getting to those results, whether it's jail, whether it's harm to yourself or other people, or the worst part is death. Other things, you can lose your mental health making some choices. You can lose mental health. You can lose physical health, collateral damage. So many things, so many results of bad choices and decisions. And sometimes, if you don't sit back and think about that, and you just keep doing it, you will get the unfavorable results that you don't want. If you don't want to deal with child support, you have to think about what you're doing. You got to think about what you're doing. If you don't want to be a single parent, don't take the risk of having unprotected sex. Because every time you have unprotected sex, you're taking the risk on becoming a single parent or having a kid. Nobody's judging you for having a kid. They're trying to keep you from being a single parent, and the results is tough being a single parent, especially when you're young. So now you got to figure out how to develop yourself, get knowledge and skills, and raise a kid. How do you do that? What are those results like? Forget the judgment. How do you navigate those results? Young kids out here getting access to guns, causing harm to people, or possibly murdering somebody, like those young guys in in Florida, and the results: life without parole. They were judged in the courtroom. and the results. And I'm telling young men to avoid those results by making better choices. Don't even go in there in your mind sometimes to think, man, if I do this, because I promise you they weren't thinking about life without parole. They weren't thinking about the warden telling the judge, you don't have to put them on a death penalty because we can use the sweat equity. We're going to work them until they die. And when they die, they're going to die with a number and not their name, a state number. I'm trying to tell you to avoid those results. Avoid them. You think about grifting and scamming. The woman, Cheyenne Bryant, everybody on her top about her credentials. I'm telling you, and I'm not judging her, but she could have avoided the results by not going around claiming to be something that possibly she's not, and she can't show the credentials, she can't show evidence and proof. Now she's starting to feel the backlash. Now people are going to start to question, how did she even get to where she is? I'm saying forget the judgment, avoid the results. Don't do the grifting, don't do the scamming, because it will catch up with you at some point. The rhythm will catch up with you. You may get ahead of it, but I promise you it will catch up. It's like Milli Vanilli. They was on top of the world, they were doing all the singing, but one day their CD skipped. And people find out they was scamming, they was grifting. Not worried about the judgment, I'm talking about the results of people finding out that you running game. So my next one is, if you do not increase your skills, the level of difficulty you will face. I went through this. I think until I went to school at Pulaski Tech and got the 2-year degree in networking, I could not get over a certain amount. I'm just speaking from my own experience. I could not get past probably the 30,000 range or something like that, 35, somewhere in there. I couldn't get past it. I tried, would go to interviews. They said I interview well, but I just didn't have the education, right? And I just got married. I still was trying to, increase my wage, thinking about having a family, but I just couldn't get over that hump. So I decided um, to go to school for information systems networking, right? Before I even finished school, I think I was in the last semester of it, got a job working at the ISP place. It was double. It was a 1099. I think it was like it was W-2 contracting position, but it was double of what I was making when I was working at the airport, just being a shuttle driver. And I'm telling you that when you increase your knowledge, education, and skills, it's like you will double what you're making, if not triple almost. It may not seem that simple, but I'm telling you, it's not, because I had to go to school, I had to put in the work, I had to learn um, a whole nother skill set, but that skill set doubled what I was making at the airport. It doubled. I mean, I don't say overnight, but when I got off the phone with that person and they offered me the job and I seen the salary, I couldn't believe it at first. I didn't think you could make that much money at first. I thought it was fake. I thought it was a scam. I remember telling my wife that I'm gonna go to the orientation, and I'm not going to, because I'm off those days. I was off at the airport, and if I go there and it's legit, I'm not going back to the airport. I figured out, and that's what happened. But double went, got a 2 year degree in networking last semester of the 2 year degree, and got a job working at the ISP place, and it was double of what I was making, just like that, double. And it opened my mind up to the possibility that you can make over $50,000 in Little Rock working as a regular person working, but you got to have the education, knowledge, and skill set, or else it won't happen. When you look at these jobs that want bachelor degrees and a level of knowledge base, these jobs could be over 45,000 easy. I think a lot of help desk jobs are above 45,000. If you like what they call it, information specialist or something, I don't know what they call it now, but just by being a knowledgeable help desk person, you can make over 40,000 easy. Now imagine doing this when you're young. Imagine you're 22, you going to school, you get you a help desk job, and you making 45. Go to school in the evenings, not got your classes. Then after you get your classes, you get your degree, you can mess around and get a job making 55, $60,000 just by increasing your skills and knowledge base. And I'm saying this because if you don't do this, you're gonna find yourself in a weird space that you can't get out of, because you're gonna have to find somebody or know somebody who can get you in that door. But the only thing about that is, I've seen this happen a lot. You can paint yourself in a corner by allowing, not allowing, but knowing somebody to get you in a space. But then after you get there, you can't really move around because you haven't increased your skills and your education. It's dependent upon somebody else. I've always moved in a way that if I know somebody, that's cool, but I'm not going to depend on that solely of who I know. You got to know some things and know some people. Both. It's both. You can't just know people and not know nothing, because what's going to happen is you know somebody that get you in this position, but now you got to swim though. And if you can't swim, you're going to drown. They can get you to the pool, but you have to swim. And a lot of people I've seen that they get to the pool and they have to swim and they can't swim on their own. But they talked a good game, said I can swim in an Olympic sized pool, but if you can't swim, it's gonna show. So if you don't increase your skills, the level of difficulty will increase. I promise you. That's why I always tell kids, you young, you got the wheel. Don't worry about taking a break. Get it done now. Take a break when you get done. Because like I said, regular gas is $4. It's only gonna go up. It's not gonna go down. It never goes down. Grocery shopping is crazy. You can literally get 5 or 10 things, and it can be almost $200. I'm talking about grocery shopping. So that's something to think about. What does strategic education mean? When I say strategic education, what I'm saying is everybody doesn't have to go the college route. Some people need to go the trade route. Some people need to go the vocation route. There are many ways to service their community, and everybody can make money, but everybody has to pick something to do. What I'm seeing is nobody's picking anything. I'm seeing a percentage of people that are not doing anything, just working at Walmart, working at Amazon, And those places are not wrong to work at, but don't become complacent on the lower level jobs. Get your education while you're working there so you can move up to different levels in the company. But if you're just a regular cashier for 15 years, how much money do you think you're going to make? How much money are you leaving on the table due to not wanting to increase your value or strategically educate yourself? We have young men that are made for the trade, but not all, but there are a percentage of them that don't want to make the commitment that it takes. And when it comes to being consistent and committed, that's an individual challenge and will. You have to want to be committed. I have to want to be committed. And when you take on anything that's going to give you value, there's going to be a commitment to come with it. If you go into a trade, it's going to take you 4 years of working and uh, educating along the way until you can take the journeyman license. And what's strategic about sending some of our kids to these uh, apprenticeships? There are a lot of them in Little Rock. There are a lot of apprenticeships. We have to, if you don't want to go to college or the military, why wouldn't you go do an apprenticeship? Instead of working at Walmart, you can work at an apprenticeship and learn the trade at the same time, and you're working towards something greater instead of just working a retail job, and that is the ceiling, unless you go get education in like business management or something like that. But guys that are good with their hands, that don't want to be in the corporate world, go work a trade. But you get, it's gonna be a commitment either way. If you go to college, 4 year commitment. You go to nursing school, that's some years of commitment. And we have to stop telling our kids that they can't be doctors or lawyers or things like that. Does it take commitment to be a doctor? It sure does. But I promise you it's worth it in the end. And we need more doctors. We need more of those things from a strategic standpoint and a community standpoint. Does it cost to go to school? Yes, it do. But if you pick the right field from a strategic standpoint, you can pay that back. If you do the right thing strategically while you're getting those student loans, some of that stuff you can invest. You don't have to take that 5,000 and bring it home and just blow it. You can put that into an investment account. Being strategic, going to an apprenticeship, learning HVAC, learning electricity, learning plumbing. You could be strategic. Learning about business, being strategic, why they regulate, why you need a license, how do you be a contractor, what does that entail, understanding how business works, personal finance versus business finance, learning about each of those things, being strategic. We have to give our kids the opportunity or expose them to what it means to be strategic in your education. Being a principal, a lot of kids don't realize the principals at school. Once you do 4 years of college, another 2 years, 2.5 years of a master's, and then some people do the PhD, you can become an administrator, principal. That's being strategic. And it's also, it takes a commitment and it takes being consistent as well. Sometimes the race is not about who's the fastest, it's about who can endure, who can be consistent, who can outlast. My bro said, My bro says all a chess game. See your success and make the right moves to get there. Always play several moves ahead. Man, fam, that's my guy, man. That's my roommate right there, boy. We lived through some tough times, man. We grew up together, but yeah, it's a chess game, man. You got to play chess, man. And if you don't know, ask somebody. It's too late in the game. We in 2026 to say you don't know. We got to do better than that. Shout out to fam. Appreciate that, bro. You got to come holler at me, man. You got to come on the podcast, talk to me, bro. We got to chop it up, man. But we have to be strategic, though. So this is my last one to the young bulls out there, man. I gotta make some clips out of this, but do not put your fate in other people's hands. Do not put your fate in other people's hands. How do you do that? By making choices, good choices, thinking about what you're doing. Don't get trapped in the legal system. Once you break the law, you put your fate in other people's hands. Nothing you can do about it. You can try to say this and that. You can try to say the circumstances. We just saw it with those guys with the Julio Fulio situation. Those guys are getting life without parole. That means that they're probably gonna die in there, and they're so young. So they're gonna be in there for so long, unless something changed in the laws. But most of the time, when it's a high-profile case, it's hard to get out from under that. But when you break the law, you chance your freedom. You put your freedom at chance when you break the law. Just gonna give it to you straight. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. When you break the law, you make a choice to break the law, whether you can justify it or whatever, but it don't work in court. One of the guys that was in the court, the light-skinned guy, he tried to plead for mercy. They didn't give it to him. He got life without parole too. The reason why, in my opinion, I don't think they gave it to him is because he was from the suburbs. His parents, he lived with both parents. They had took a trip to Africa, matter of fact. You know how much it costs to go to Africa? For just one person? The whole family went. He had a business. He was a photographer. Think he did content. But made a bad decision that cost him life without parole. That was the price tag. And if you don't look at the price tag of the choice or decision that you make, you're going to put your fate in other people's hands. And that's exactly what they did. And it's happening all around the country. My heart bleeds out because what can you say to a kid? What can you say to a man that get them to understand your freedom is not worth taking another person's life? Your freedom is not worth breaking in somebody's house and getting or robbing the bank. It's not worth it. Being in the feds. And you hear all of these dudes that's been in the feds, they telling you about the feds, they telling you about prison, and people still not getting it. There's people still not getting it. Like I said, I'm not judging you. I'm telling you to avoid the results. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Forget the judgment. Avoid the results. Avoid going to prison for life without parole. Avoid doing a long stretch in prison and then come back and have to figure out what's next. How do I cope with the real world again? Avoid dealing with the legal system, being on probation, having to check in with probation officers and they can call you at any time. Give me a drug test. Why are you over there? You can't be over there. You can't do this. You can't talk to this person. You can't talk to that person. Avoid the results. Because it's how many people do you have to see go through this to realize that it's not a good idea to do these things? They're not the only kids that's getting life without parole. It's kids all over the country getting life without parole. And the warden was on the court stand saying, we don't have to kill them. We can work them and get the equity out of them until they die, and then we bury them in the state cemetery. They die with a number. Imagine being a parent, hearing that about your kid. Imagine if you're a kid, imagine your parents having to know that they can only see you in a visiting at a jail. And then if you watch the documentaries, like I've been checking out, a lot of guys say when they move you to a jail or a federal penitentiary or a penitentiary, it's so far away that the family they can't afford to come out and see you all the time because they have a life they have to live, bills they have to pay. And think about now, you in jail, gas go up to $4-5 a gallon, and your family tell you we can't afford to come out and see you every week because we don't have the gas money to come out and do that. You can't get mad at that. But that's the results of making the bad choice. We have to stop trying to rationalize making bad choices because I've been there. I made some bad choices. I had to stop justifying in my head the bad choices that I was making. And I had to start realizing, what am I doing? Why am I making this bad choice? Can't blame. I seen a clip, a guy said, you can't use your childhood, blame your childhood on what you do in your adulthood. When you become an adult, the clock resets. It's your choices and decisions now. You have control over what you do. And if you know you, and you have problems from your childhood, go see a therapist. Get those issues resolved. Because if you hold on to it, it's going to affect you. You have to learn how to process and let stuff go. Some things are out of your control. Because I'm telling you, when you in that courtroom, and you're looking at 12 people determining your fate, they're not going to care about all the circumstances you went through. It's not going to work. You broke the law. Now your fate is in their hands. And they tried all of those things. The guy pleaded for clemency. He did. He pleaded for mercy. Guess what? Still got life without parole. It's happening in real time. They showing you. They not playing with you in the legal system. It's not worth breaking the law, man. It's not. Now you can say you hungry, but guess what? If you go to jail, you lose that freedom. You can't just figure out what you're gonna eat. It's what they serve you, and if you got money on your books, maybe you can go to commissary. But not everybody has. So now you're gonna go to jail and be even more hungrier, and you in jail dealing with that. Don't use your circumstances to make bad decisions. Still make good decisions regardless until your circumstance change. How do I change my circumstance? Increasing my knowledge, increasing my skill set, and increasing my value. You have to do those things. If you don't, you're going to put your fate in other people's hands. Another thing, putting your fate, before I get out of here, put your fate in people's hands. If I go get a job at Walmart, I've worked at Walmart. Even when I'm working there, it's my responsibility personally to find out what's the next step and what's better for me to do after this. This is not going to be my forever job. I should tell myself this. I need to figure out what I'm going to do next. I'm not going to be doing this for 10 years. It's not going to happen. But it was up to me personally to figure out what I need to do for me. As you grow as an adult, personal responsibility is very important. That has to be part of your choices and decisions. Personally, if I make this choice, how is it going to affect me? What's the collateral damage? 5 to 10 years. What's the price tag on that? If you don't look at it from that standpoint, you can be. I was reckless in my decision making when I was younger until I started to wise up. So many trials, errors, and headaches and bumps until I started to wise up and I started making better decisions. And until I started to get my education, until I started to up my knowledge base, I was putting my fate in other people's hands. And guess what? Other people not gonna tell you should go to school. And I even had people telling me I should go to school, and I ignored it. And I was putting my faith in other people's hands. Most of the time, though, I'm gonna say 80% of the time, most people are not gonna tell you your strengths, your weaknesses, or if they do, they probably doing it to like an evaluation or something. But you really have to hone in and focus on you getting better day by day. What's good for me, what's not good for me. What works for me, what don't work for me. Finding out what gives you the advantage and what gives me the disadvantage. I'm in a circumstance I don't want to be in. How do I get out of this circumstance? How do I get to a place of stability? You have to think about those things. If not, I'm telling you, you're going to put your fate in other people's hands. I didn't want to go to jail. So it was a lot of decisions I had to make. Like, I'm not doing it because I don't know the risk involved with that. It ain't worth it. I don't want to sell dope because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to own a gun without a permit because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to buy a hot gun off somebody, even though that's a cool looking gun, because I don't want to go to jail. I don't know what that gun did before it got to me, or what somebody did with that gun before it got to me, because I don't want to go to jail. Theft by receiving, buying something. We've all done it, but if you get caught, you can do jail time. Theft by receiving, it happens a lot more than what you think. It can happen, but life. That's why we call it a thinking game. Life is a chess game. You have to think before you make the move instead of moving then thinking. It's better to think about every angle as much as you can, negative and positive. And then if you can handle the outcome, the different outcomes, you can handle that, then you make the move. But those guys in Florida, I got to ask you this. Let me know in the comments. Did they think about the consequences before they went and took their young man's life? Because it don't look like it. The guy, the licensing guy, he was just almost crying in court because he realized his life is going to be behind those walls. Nothing he can do about it. Now he gonna have to adjust. Now he's gonna have to be probably a totally different person because you going in there with wolves now, and you either gonna be a wolf or you're gonna be a sheep. Not a lot of in between in jail. Then when you free, you either a predator or you prey. From what they say in the documentaries. So don't put your fate in other people's hands. And we have to start strategically educating our youth, having them educating things that make sense. We have to stop just allowing them to take stuff just because it's easy. Sometimes you have to challenge yourself. Sometimes you need to do something that it may feel like it's hard, but when you finish, you'll realize that this was a great achievement. Most great things are hard, they're not easy to do. And imagine this, there are some things that even when you're doing in the streets is hard. And most people can master those things, but they don't want to master the hard as far as education, the corporate world, and those other things. They want it fast, and it don't come like that in real life. It just don't. You have to commit to something, and you got to be consistent, and you have to commit to it. And through time, it comes. So with that being said, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think. This your boy Mike. Make sure to catch out the Thinking Game podcast and CTM Sports. We talk about that as well. But my endeavor, individual development, man, I promise you, that's one of my things. Individual development is so important. Before you get to all the extracurricular stuff, individual development. Where are you in your development? Be honest with yourself. Know what the next steps are. And if you don't, make a strategy and execute. This your boy Mike. I catch you on the next one, and I'm signing out.